Plaintiff Sherry Gallion says her brother has a son with the defendant. And he's not only addicted to meth, but he also suffers from mental illness. Sherry claims she paid for an attorney after the defendant's son was arrested and thrown into solitary confinement. But she has yet to be repaid, so she's suing. Defendant Serena Dixon says Sherry is the biggest enabler known to man, and she often gives meth to Serena's son. Serena says she's been doing everything in her power to help her son. But Sherry constantly criticizes her as a mother. She's countersuing for harassment.
All right, start with you.
Serena was married to my brother. They had one child, Ethan, who is my nephew. Ethan grew up around drugs and eventually became addicted to methamphetamine. He would sometimes have psychotic episodes and act erratic.
He suffered from a mental illness?
Well, yes. But he is in treatment now and taking medication and counseling.
How long has he been in treatment?
4 months.
Okay. Is he going to ever stop treatment and medication?
No, I think he'll continue
He has
on.
a chemical imbalance.
Right.
Okay, that's biological, and you're born with a chemical imbalance.
He's not the only one in our family. We've got a little bit of mental illness in our family.
There you go. Because you know there's so much stigma out here. We don't want people to get the wrong impression. Going to ever stop treatment and medication?
No, I think he'll continue
He has
on.
a chemical imbalance.
Right.
Okay, that's biological, and you're born with a chemical imbalance.
He's not the only one in our family. We've got a little bit of mental illness in our
There
family.
you go. Because you know there's so much stigma out here. We don't want people to get the wrong impression.
Defendant Serena Dixon has a son with the plaintiff's brother, and she claims the plaintiff enables her son's meth addiction by supplying him with drugs.
Go ahead, tell me about the nephew over the years beyond that.
Well, about a year ago, he came to my house, came through the back door, and was in one of his psychotic episodes. He took my camera, my security camera, and was bashing it against the furniture. He turned music up really loud. My mother lives with me, and she was there at the time. He threatened to kill her. So I called the police and had him picked up. The police officers came to my house and took him to Crawford County Detention, where he stayed for about 3.5, 4 weeks. During that time, well, they also charged him with criminal mischief, residential burglary, and the whole reason I called the police is because the defendant had already taken him to court for a civil commitment to get help. And he was in another court. He was ordered to 45 days at a mental institution or hospital, and they gave him a bunch of meds and released him after 4 days.
4 days.
And but they did tell the defendant that if we have any more problems, have him picked up and they would take him back, which is what I tried to do. They kept him for, we left him in there for about a month, and during that time, they kept him in solitary confinement, naked. Sometimes he was on suicide watch. And then one day they had him in the restraint chair, naked, and for a day and a half, and placed him in the booking area. That was pretty much it. I went down, got a bondsman, and paid the $10,000 to get him out of jail.
That's how this young man was treated. Mm-hmm. All right, and so how did he came home after that, and then what?
Well, at that point, we needed an attorney. The defendant found one, asked me to come to the appointment.
Well, the charges that were against the young man for the criminal aspects of his episode.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, he still had those to answer to. So the defendant found an attorney, asked me if I could meet her there, which I did. He wanted a lot more money up front than we figured, so I went ahead and paid the $5,000 that he asked for, with the agreement that she would pay back the $5,000. I told her, I'll pay half if you'll just cover the $2,500, and she agreed to that.
Okay, and let me get some background from you.
Okay, first of all, Sherry is the biggest enabler in his life. She has provided him with drugs. She is just an enabler.
Seen her do that, or he's told you, or someone else has
I've
told
seen the
you?
results of him coming from her home. I've seen him sober, and then I've seen him come from her home from being with her. I have visually seen him.
Does she have
He has told me that.
teenagers living with her?
No.
Or young adults living with her?
No.
She lives alone?
She lives with her mother. Lives with her.
Okay. And he says she gives him drugs. You've seen him come from over there high?
Yes, and he has told me that
What
she
type of drugs? Did he tell you what type?
methamphetamines.
She gives him meth.
Yes. My son does have a problem. He has a mental problem. He has been diagnosed with ADD. He is, I've had him.
Sound like ADD, bipolar, something.
Yes.
He got a few things going on.
All of that. It comes from both sides of the family. He come to my house one evening and was hanging out and started just talking out of his head, having a psychotic episode. He was wanting me to go walking with him. It was late at night. I told him, no, I'm not going to go walking with you. He got mad at me and said that he was going to burn my house with me in it. So I ran to my bedroom, I locked the door, and I called 911. They had him arrested. I immediately told them to please put him on a psych evaluation hold because I needed to have him checked. Something's wrong. They did the check on him. I got him transported to Eureka Springs. He went to a mental hospital up there for 4 days, like she said. He was on a 45-day psych evaluation hold, but they only held him for 4. I get really aggravated. He come back home. They put him on tons of meds. I don't know how they made that evaluation in that amount of time, but they sent him home. He then, a couple days after that, goes to Sherry's house, has another episode. She calls me and tells me what he's doing. She says that she's going to call law. I said that's going to be the only way we're going to get him back into a mental hospital, from my understanding, from what I had been told. She calls. The state steps in when they arrest him. After they arrest him, the state steps in and they set his bond at $100,000, which was way too high. That's
mentally ill. Did they know he was mentally ill?
Yeah, I tried to get them. I went down to the prosecuting attorney's office and tried to get them to do another evaluation on him to get him back into the hospital. That's when state stepped in and said nope. They charged him with everything that he had been charged. Helped him for almost a month. Through that time, she said what they had done to him. Through that time, you don't do a mental patient that way. You sure don't tie them to a chair naked. You don't put them in a cell by themselves that amount of time by themselves naked. He just was going, I was afraid it was going to mess him up more. I called her. She was upset just as much as I was about him being in there. And she told me to find a lawyer. I found a lawyer. We went and talked to the lawyer. She had the money. She paid for it. I did not agree to pay her back.
Did she ask you to?
No.
It never came up?
No. She knows I don't have the means of paying her. I'm recently filed for my disability, and it takes a while to get that.
Defendant Serena Dixon has a son with the plaintiff's brother, and she claims the plaintiff enables her son's meth addiction by supplying him with drugs.
Ma'am, you knew she had no ability to pay?
At the time she did, and
How?
she has a habit of relying on men to pay her bills and other things. And she was living with someone. They just bought a bunch of new furniture for their trailer. And I did ask, and she did agree to pay me back. And she has worked in the last year.
No, I have not worked in the
last year and a half.
No.
Where's your son at now? What's the status there?
My son lives with his girlfriend at her home. He is going to drug court now. He just, he's recently...
Where?
In Crawford County.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All states don't have them in all,
Yes, it's
all
awesome.
counties.
He has gotten so
that's
fat.
good.
You have no idea.
See?
Yes.
See what a good court does?
Yes.
See how that good government has her smiling?
Every time he gets in trouble or does something unruly, she calls me or texts me immediately and cusses me and tells me what a failure of a mom I've been, how all my kids hate me. I've never been there for them when I have been there for all my kids. I have fought with Ethan throughout this entire time to please get a job. You do need to get a job to fill your time so you don't have time to wander and do drugs or want to fill your time with drugs. Please get a job. That's just one of my main things. She has enabled him. She gives him money, drugs. He doesn't have to work. Every time he falls, she's there. She wipes him off, stands him back up, and goes and tells him to go, I'll be here when you fall again. It's just, he just wasn't doing what he needed to do in life. If you're going to mess up,
Now, had you all discuss coping skills
Yes.
with a person of that level of disorder.
Yes.
Did you know any coping skills
Yes,
about dealing with a
I've
young
had years
man?
of counseling. I tried to help him. First of all, Your Honor, I'm 60 years old. I don't give anybody methamphetamine. I don't use methamphetamine. Ethan says the same thing about his mother. He wasn't in Eureka Springs. He was in Hot Springs at the mental hospital
wrong.
there.
I was wrong.
He's not in drug court in Crawford County. He's in mental health court in Sebastian County. Perhaps if she were more in tune with her son, she would know these things. And he is working now. He has a job and actively going every day.
Good.
He's
And
doing very well.
excellent. I'm so
And his
glad.
girlfriend is a 44-year-old woman.
And what do you say changed his behavior? How did he do better? Everybody wants to know that. A lot of people, millions of people have
He was looking
this
at prison.
situation.
It's really not optional for him. He was either prison or get help. Get help. Go to drug court and show us, get a job.
So it was
get
the
help.
tough love.
Yes.
All
yes.
right.
And I feel like I'm the only one that has given him tough love. I am the one that will say, no, I'm not going to help you out of this situation. You've got to get a job. You've got to pay for your own mess ups. You can't keep going to someone and expecting them to pay for when you want to act like this. It's not exceptional.
Particularly if you're not doing your best to address your disorder. How do you do your best? By, if it's a chemical imbalance, by taking the prescribed meds and consistent counseling. So if you're doing that, I support you.
Yeah.
If you're not, don't come around me.
Yes. Yes.
That's the tough love.
That's exactly what
you
I
have
did.
to administer,
I had
and
him
that worked for
blocked.
you.
Yes, I blocked him from where he could have no communication with me because he's just so disrespectful. First of all, he has no self-worth. If you don't respect yourself, how do you expect anyone to respect you? He has to get a job. I just was on him about getting a job. The minute we get him out of jail, she signs him up on disability. He's just like, forget it, I'm not going to work. I've got a disability check coming in. He's never worked. I feel that he should go out there and at least try to work, and if he can't do it, then we'll go from there.
Can't make a person
But
do
he
something
has
they're
not
incapable
worked.
of.
He's not held a job. That's something, his dad, he worked. This man worked every day. I don't know where Ethan gets this from. I do not.
We do know. See, you can't you can't be blind on one end and then understand on the other. You seem to have a very good grip on his, and I compliment you for that. You have a very good grip on his disorder. Very good grip. But then at the same time, you can't have unrealistic expectations
True.
in light of his disorder.
Yes.
And so he's gonna be hard to keep a job.
Yes.
You're gonna go off on the boss when the boss says something to him. You're gonna quit the job. You're gonna throw something at somebody and catch a case. All of that. And so that's why he is considered disabled and would be entitled to a Social Security check. And so don't be so hard on him about that. I like the tough love approach, but the tough love should be, if you don't get counseling and get therapy, then you out. As long as you're doing that, I'll support you.
Yes.
And I'll use the coping skills that counselors have given me. You all need to know how to cope. That's the objective when you're dealing with that.
Defendant Serena Dixon has a son with the plaintiff's brother, and she claims the plaintiff enables her son's meth addiction by supplying him with drugs.
And the $2,500, I don't see how you could have an expectation that she would repay you. And I didn't like that comment about she depends on a lot of men, so the men should have paid it. That's,
Your Honor.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
There is evidence in your folder
Good.
where she does say that,
What page?
where it does indicate that she's trying to come up with the money.
Okay.
That would be page 3.
First of all, can I say something? I don't feel it is my place to pay for it at
Thomas
all
is
because my
home, and
son
we
should
are
have to
going
pay
the
for it.
library.
If left to you, your son would be in prison right now.
Lord.
How about pushing?
And we
You're the
will
reason
have
why
How
the...
about
I'm
pushing
doing
counseling
this. You
instead
did
of
all
a
this.
job, a
You
job,
did
a
this all.
job?
You're the one that put him in this position. You are the one that enabled him.
I've
You have
lived away for
enabled
30
him.
years. I didn't
You have
raise your
enabled
child.
him from the get-go.
Yeah, you do
funny, my
say
3
thanks
boys turned out
anyways,
fine.
and we will have $750 Wednesday for the lawyer. Why only $750?
Well, at that time, it was for a different attorney. She found another one. We went with that one. And he was $5,000. She agreed to pay $2,500.
I never agreed. I think my son should have to pay her, if anyone.
I didn't have an agreement with her son. I had an agreement with her.
She had him arrested.
Ma'am, you misled me about whether you had ever agreed to pay anything, and she directed me to a text, whether it's $750 or $2,500. You were not honest. So I'm going to grant her entire judgment. Your counterclaim, harassment, how has she harassed you?
She has called me all hours of the night. She has left me multi-texts. I wish I had them on me, but
Did
I
you
have busted
respond
my
to
phone.
any of them?
No, sir. I have blocked her.
Why didn't you respond to the
Because
first one,
she
or
will
the
keep
second
on.
one, or the third one?
She would keep on. I'm not going to feed into her.
No, but the first one, why didn't you respond?
Because she cusses me and disrespects me.
Why
and I'm
curse
not
you
going
if
to.
you haven't told her you're not giving her the money?
That's just how she approaches people. That's how she's always approached me.
No,
She
I'm not.
cusses
You haven't
me.
convinced
She
me
said
of
she
that.
blocked me. How could I harass her?
You haven't convinced me. The first time you talked to her, she cursed you out. Why would she call you just to curse you out? She wants her money.
Because
so the first call would be, when are you going to have my money? That's
Yes.
the first call. The first call isn't, hey, your money, you get hung up on.
Because, yes, that's exactly what happened. She immediately starts screaming at me. When I get on the phone with her, she just starts cussing me. She just, not too long ago,
First
about a
time, I
month
don't
ago.
believe she did that. Not convinced that you were harassed to the tune of
I was.
$1,000. And wish you well with your son. And
Thank
I'll
you.
say a prayer for your son. If anything we can do here, we'd be glad to do it.
Thank
All
you.
right, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the plaintiff.